Welcome, dearest ones. If you are curious about journaling and how a regular writing practice can actually create positive emotions, then stay put, my friend, because I'm going to be talking with Alexandra Badita, journaling and storytelling coach, and also founder of the first journaling academy in Romania. Like, how cool does that sound? And she's also the author of Write Your Own Way to Happiness. So I'm really excited to dive into the conversation today. Hi, Alexandra. Welcome to the broadcasting studio.
Hi, Gabriella. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. I've been really looking forward to this conversation. Journaling is just pretty much my absolute favorite thing to do.
Oh, I love to hear that. It's really, really such a beautiful tool, and I'm so excited to share it with the world.
So what I want to do first, Alexandra, is go back to before you discovered journaling. Like, I know in your book you talk about the fact that even at age 10 and 11 you were writing, but then I get a sense that there was a little bit of losing your way, and that journaling came back into your life later on through therapy. So I'd love for you to give a sense of what took you to therapy and how journaling really brought you back from that dark place.
Yeah, I mean, when I was writing as a child and teen in my diary, it was more, just writing through the activities during the day, what was happening, and, the emotional turmoils of any teenager. But then later on, after I kind of drifted apart from writing, also because after I graduated from journalism, I did work in media for a few years and I was writing. But then I moved into marketing and project management, and it wasn't that much creative work involved anymore. And I was feeling also that I was kind of becoming more and more separated from myself and from my mission, probably also because I wasn't actually listening to my calling of writing. And I started to get a lot of panic attacks. I was into anxiety mode. I didn't know what was going on because, of course, on the outside, it looked like, everything was working very well. I had a stable job, a very well paid job. I had a relationship and I had friends and social life. But on the inside, it felt like for 6 months, someone else was living my life and I wasn't in my body. And from that moment, just kind of noticing how difficult it is and waking up in the middle of the night on the floor of my kitchen and crying, I realized that I need help. So I went to a therapist. I do believe that the universe works through people. So I'm really sure that my therapist was sent to me from somewhere because she definitely understood my interest in writing, and she suggested to monitor my thoughts and my emotions for several weeks and to write them down in a journal. And that's how I started to write again and to kind of reconnect with who is Alex. What is it that I like? What did I lose in the process? And it took me a few weeks and months to kind of understand what was going on, but it really helped me to get grounded, to get present, because I was writing every day about the thoughts that I was having, the emotions, and how that was kind of connecting me to the outside world. And I slowly started to get back. And after a few months, when I became more and more grounded and I moved from Romania to London, and I was there again. I was starting a new chapter of my life, and I realized, you know what? This is something that has really helped me. Writing is so therapeutic that I want to share this with the world. I really want people to use it as well because it saved my life. And look, now it helped me to move forward. And that was the moment when I decided that, you know what, I want this to be known by people. I started doing workshops. I started learning myself about personal development and coaching and studying how to do this for people, how to support people in the best possible way. I started working on myself and getting a coach and a therapist again. And it has been such a beautiful journey, and it has been growing ever since. I then moved back. I quit my job in London, moved back to Romania to follow this mission now, and I know that this is it. This is my calling. I know it.
Mm. It's such an inspiring story, Alexandra. What struck me is right at the start, you were talking about being a teenager and just sort of, just writing in your diary. So I'd love to dig in a little bit more about the difference that you see between writing what might be referred to as a kind of unintentional or unconscious diary, where maybe you're just sort of complaining or you're just churning over the same old stuff, versus coming to a journaling practice with guidance or with intention or with focus.
Yeah, that's something that I see a lot of the time, and very many people are resistant to the actual practice of journaling because they think, oh, this is just for teenagers, this is just for girls, this is something that I don't need in my life. And the truth is that, even when we're called to do so in childhood or in early ages, it's still good. Even if we do it at that level, that's still a start to bring a piece of paper or a notebook and start writing about the activities of the day and what is happening and how we're feeling about it. That's the first level, and it's perfect. It's perfect. If we don't do anything but that and we start with that, it's really, really great. Then journaling means that we're going one step further, one step deeper, because we bring intention, as you mentioned as well. You bring intention, you bring guidance, and you bring uncomfortable questions. I always mention that when we do it by ourselves, we tend to just narrate and talk about what's happening. But it's very difficult to actually have the courage to ask ourselves those difficult, uncomfortable questions, to take us into the dark corners. Because if it were easy, everyone would do it. But this is why we seek professional guidance. When we go to coaching, when we go to therapy, we want someone else to mirror ourselves and to bring us those questions that we're afraid to ask. So in journaling, this is what I do as well. This is where my role as a coach comes in, to guide people with exercises and prompts to think about what they're afraid to think about.
Beautiful. I love this idea of the uncomfortable questions. For me, with my own journaling practice, I find those questions so powerful. I want to go back to also what you talked about when you said that you had really lost that connection with yourself. And something that comes up a lot, especially with the audience on this channel, especially with my own clients, is this sort of this not knowing of why we're here, or this disconnection of, life could mean more, but I just don't feel like I've really tapped into that meaning. So what would you say it is about journaling that helps us reconnect with ourselves, even if we might be thinking, how on earth am I ever really going to know who I am?
That's a really beautiful question. And the truth is that I think that our purpose here is not something that we start seeking. It's not like a treasure that is hidden from us. Just by finding joy in everyday life, by being grateful and having a gratitude practice in our journal, that starts to reconnect us with the moment, with the present, and to be mindful of our surroundings and everything that we already have. That in itself is a great way to live our lives, to be happy, to be grateful. Then, of course, just paying attention to our inner conversation, to our inner voice, because we spend so much time arguing with someone inside of us, but there's actually no one there. It's just our own voice. And we first want to listen to it. We want to actually pay attention to what it's saying to us, write it down, and then rewrite what that story is telling us and read from our journal the positive thoughts, the positive conversation, transform it. This is in our power to transform that inner conversation. And I always go back to this example that the first thing that we tell to ourselves in the morning is really, really important. And for me, for a very long time, especially when I was in my anxiety and in the separation time, I was constantly thinking, oh, another day. Oh, I have to go to work. Oh, I have to do this. And I would start my day like that. And obviously, it would just continue going from complaint to complaint. And then I started to shift it with intention. And the first thing that I say whenever I wake up is, I love you, Alex. And it took me so long. It took me 2 years to intentionally remind myself to say that every morning. And now it just comes naturally, but it took me 2 years until I struggled. And of course, there was still a lot of conversation going on before I got to I love you, Alex. But it's a practice. And that brings us back to ourselves. That connects us. And keeping a journal about monitoring that, and the purpose is there. We already have it. It comes through what we're going through. If we're connected to ourselves and we pay attention, then we will see that we already have that purpose within us. It's not something that we have to search outside of us.
This is so yummy. The way that you described the voice in the head and how journaling is a beautiful tool to actually start to flip that voice. You talked about finding the positive phrases and then even being able to say, I love you. Like, I can completely resonate to that. So I just remember just writing paragraphs and paragraphs in my journal of how I wanted to think. And that eventually started to teach me how to think in a new way. So that just all landed with me so beautifully. And it's like already I'm just like, let's journal, let's do it. So I know my audience is already knowing that I will often do some live journaling. So I know that you've prepared a couple of journaling prompts that I would love to do with you and then discuss afterwards. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the journaling prompts that you've prepared and give us a framework for what you're going to invite us to do?
Yes, so I actually prepared 2 different types of prompts, and one of them is related to a practice that I am currently doing myself as well, because in my journaling academy here in Romania, I always test and do the practices myself before I teach them to my students. So right now I'm doing a lot of manifestation journaling. And I realized that it's really important when it comes to manifestation, aside from writing our goals and what we want to manifest, what we want to bring in our reality, it's important to realign with what we think we deserve. Because if we think that we're not deserving, then we can write pages and pages in our journal that we wish for them to happen, we desire them, but we don't think that we're deserving. So I invite you to write down I deserve, and then write everything that you deserve, everything that you want to bring into your reality, but start with building that belief that you deserve it. I deserve. And then after, you can write, just a few lines, and then at the end, thank you, it is done.
Okay,
So
perfect.
We can do that.
And so usually for me, I do a 2-minute timer. Does that seem about right to just sort of brainstorm with the I deserve?
Perfect.
And then thank you, it is done at the end.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So how about you and I go for a couple of minutes and then we'll dig in a little deeper about perhaps what's come up, and then you might share, how this manifesting journaling has been for you.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have a timer, or I'm happy to use my iPad here?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So let me set it for 2 minutes. I'll see you on the other side.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Off you go. Okay, so that's 2 minutes. So I'm just going to write that last phrase that you said.
Thank you. It is done.
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful. So those of you who've been writing with us, of course, we would love to hear what you came up with in the comments, but let's you and I share, Alex. So I'd love for you to share if there was anything that came up today that was new. Like for me, whenever I'm doing a repetitive journaling practice, if something new comes in, I'm always like, ooh. But also perhaps to give us a sense of the journey that you've been on with this practice and how it's going for you.
Yes, so I actually love that we had a time frame because this really encourages everyone to write from a stream of consciousness. And the best way is to just keep writing without lifting your pen from the paper and, just whatever comes out. And like you said, I was writing and writing, and there's always a lot of things that come up in terms of deserving to have free time during the day, to live my days in a relaxed way. And this is something that I have been working on for the past couple of months. And it happened from the beginning of the year when I decided to move from Bucharest to another city here in Romania, in Brașov, which is closer to the mountains. And I wanted it so much since last summer. I wanted to make this move and come here closer to nature, and I knew that there was something else blocking me, and it was this feeling of deserving. And when I started to shift and I started to feel that I actually deserve to live in a beautiful place close to nature, in a beautiful house, and to get my coffee outside on the balcony and look at the mountain, and I kept writing and writing and writing, that my subconscious caught up and it really understood that, yes, now you feel it, now you deserve it. And it happened. So I really manifested that. And now I continue this practice to realign with every area in my life, because when it comes to deserving, there are so many things that we feel, that we have to put others first. And, we have to really give ourselves permission by saying, I deserve to take time off. I deserve to have fun, to laugh, to take a nap. I deserve to feel good, to feel joy. Anything that feels like something that, you have been conditioned to do, then you want to reframe it and to say that you deserve, to remind yourself that you deserve. And for me, that's always such a beautiful reminder. So I continue to do this practice every morning when I wake up, and it's really, really has been changing my life.
What jumped out at me was the phrase, and then my unconscious caught up, because that reminded me how often, we don't get taught at school how to communicate to our unconscious and how to start reprogramming our thinking. And, this is a place that I was certainly stuck in, where I was talking angrily to myself. And I was like, realizing that's no way for your unconscious to catch up. Like that's just simply staying in that that undeserving pattern. So when you talked about your unconscious catching up, it really tapped into that understanding that I now have of like the best way to start communicating to ourselves and to dig down to those layers. And just the example that you've given of the transformation of your life, it's like, that's when we create change, when we learn how to start communicating to ourselves in a way that's beneficial. So that really spoke to me, and I resonate with that. I mean, literally the first sentence I wrote, I deserve space and time in nature to make a connection to a wisdom that is beyond the repetitive thinking of my own mind. So I'm very much in that same place, Alex, where I think when I was doing deserving work a couple of years ago, when I was really starting to want to raise up my business and achieve success, it was all about, well, I deserve clients and I deserve success. And then, of course, I've come to the next place, which is like, well, now because of all my hard work, I deserve space and time off and really time for me. And then I wrote, I deserve to have a spiritual, an exercise, and a nutritional practice that treats my body and soul with care. Thank you. It is done. So again, like I didn't, I had no idea what I was going to write, but it was really nice to see that everything I'm writing is actually now about me. But I felt really comfortable. I didn't have that old voice in my head that's like, well, this is really selfish of you. You know, as you said, we often think we should be putting other people first. Like I felt really comfortable about the fact that I'm putting myself first, I'm putting my soul first, I'm putting my body first. So that was for me like just a really nice validation in that practice. I loved that one.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I really love that, you're also mentioning about paying attention on how you feel when you write these things down, because at first it will come with discomfort. It will feel like, "Ugh, I'm writing that I deserve, but I don't really believe it."
Yeah.
And with repetition and with practice, we start to believe it as well. And absolutely, the work with our unconscious mind is so, so important, because that's where everything happens. That's where we make our decisions from. And that's why I also love working with children, because in early ages we build those layers of our subconscious. So we need to pay attention. We need to make sure that what we plant there are the good seeds. So yeah, it's really, really important work.
And nice, yeah, nice for you to give a sense of sometimes it does feel uncomfortable when you're writing things that aren't familiar, because I think sometimes that can put people off in the early days. They're like, oh, I'm doing this journal prompt, but it just feels really weird. And so they stop it before that transformation occurs.
Yeah, it's normal. It's normal to feel that, you don't really believe it at first, because
Mm,
it comes with the whole package of our conditioning and what we have been thinking for so long. So of course, just taking out the pen and paper and writing down is not going to just flip the switch like that. It
yeah.
takes time and practice, and that's why journaling is a practice. It's not something that, you can transform in just one session of writing. It takes discipline, and that's where I see most people struggling, and finding that, they're not seeing results, so they give up. But
Mm,
it's the intention. If we put in the intention of what do I want to achieve with my practice of journaling, then we can put in the work, and then we will start seeing results. So it's a circle of, intention, practice, results. Because of course, if we stop the practice, there will be no results, and we won't be doing any journaling anymore, because it feels like we're not seeing it.
yeah, yeah. Let's move on to the next prompt that you said that you'd prepared, Alex.
Yes. So the second one is actually related to the full moon that we had last night, which was a full moon in Leo. And I love the rituals around moon and
Mm,
everything, because it connects us with nature so beautifully. And one of the prompts that I also used last night when I did the full moon ritual was, what is blocking you from seeing your true light? And full moons are usually about releasing and ending the cycle. With new moons, we start a cycle, we start to set new intentions. With full moons, we end a cycle and we release what no longer serves us. So, acknowledging what is blocking us so we can release it is something that is so beautifully done during a full moon. So, I invite you to write this. What is blocking you
okay.
from seeing your true light?
Your true light. And is there anything that we put at the end of this, or we just go with this one?
This is just again, stream of consciousness. Feel free to write for as long as you'd like and see what comes up, because you never know what comes up.
Great. Okay, so let's go for another couple of minutes, and then again we can share with this one. But I love that idea of, so yeah, for me too, I'm always aware of the full moons, and I often I don't tend to track them on a date, but I can feel in my body, I'm like, ooh, like for me, I can feel myself going into quite a dark place. I'm like, okay, I'm really being drawn into the shadows. You know, for me, it's like I'm basically being drawn into the shadows to see my shit, to see all my crap. And literally the journal is where I go to. That, like, for me now, as soon as I open the page and I start writing, it's like, oh, thank God. Like, you know, I'm beginning to release, I'm beginning to see. So I like the idea of this prompt. So
Yeah, wonderful.
I'll set another 2 minutes and I'll see you on the other side.
Awesome. Happy journaling.
Yeah, you too. All right. That was 2 minutes.
Wonderful.
So I'd love for you to share, you know, perhaps a little bit about maybe what you were journaling just now, or, you know, you mentioned you did this practice last night. So talk a little bit more, Alex.
Yes, so now I wrote about change because the blocks are coming from the fear of change. Fear of change because being in my full light means a big change, you know, and we're constantly being on that journey of stepping more and more into our true light. And I have felt that from the past 5, 6 years when I have started to become more and more connected and stepping one step at a time into my true light. And still, you know, getting to that full beam of light is scary. So I kind of rewrote about reassuring myself that I feel ready, I'm ready, it's okay, it's safe. And you know, it's always it always starts with the awareness, with seeing where we are right now and acknowledge anything that's fear or blockage, and then reframe it, transform it into something positive. And we can do that, we can write that, we have that power, and as scary as it is, we can do it.
This is lovely, this idea of communicating to yourself that you're ready and that you're safe, because for me that's always what holds me back from change. It's literally that mechanism in the mind, you know, that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to keep us from the unknown. It's designed to keep us doing the same old things that we've done, because the brain is like, we're alive, so let's just do what we've always done. So I think that communication of being ready for a new environment, and also that new environment is another safe environment, I feel is such a powerful practice, and certainly not one to be, not one to be dismissed. I think if someone had said to me several years ago, oh, journal to yourself that you're safe, I would have been like, I don't feel unsafe, but really not understanding that there's so much more depth. There's all of the unconscious fear. So again, that really resonates with me. For me, I have another sense of the block. So I put, what comes to me is too much, too many things. I'm scattering my light across many separate fires when I could gather myself up together in one powerful, beautiful focus and be one pillar of energy with one purpose. So it's almost like my sort of trick of being small or staying safe is to say, if I do lots of different things, then I'm happy with the way that I'm doing them all, but it means that I'm not doing any one of them with any sort of hugeness or brightness or power. And every time I come back to this place of what would it be to just choose one and to go down one path really powerfully, I can almost hear it and sense it in my brain, like this kind of quivering of a frightened animal that's like all those eggs in one basket. But I know that that's the journey that I'm being called on. So again, it was really great to see that this one really resonated with me.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. And I totally resonate with that as well, because it's something that I'm familiar with. And I know that, as you said, every time when I come back to that place of looking again to where I'm called to put my light into and to reevaluate my vision, that's when I realize, okay, my path is very certain. I just have to be brave enough to take it. And one way that I always do that, and this is something that I share with the people that I work with on leadership journaling as well. Whenever you start a journal, a business journal, for instance, or a leadership journal, on the first page of your journal, write down your vision. I actually have it on my journal here as well. When I started it, on the first page is my vision, because then every time I can go back and read it, and it reminds me where my light is needed. So I totally resonate with what you shared. Thank you.
I've had such a lovely time chatting with you, Alex, and the two journal prompts have been lovely. So anyone who has been writing alongside with us, please do share any insights that you had in the comments below. It's always so lovely to know what other people are writing with these prompts. I want to just take a moment before we say goodbye, Alex, just to talk about some of the ways that people can connect with you, maybe some of the things that you're doing online that people can find out more about.
Yes, absolutely. Please do feel free to check out my podcast, Live Your Impressivity Show. It's on Spotify and on YouTube. And also check out my website, alexbadita.com. That's where I have a lot of free resources and different ways to connect with me and see if you need any support with journaling. And also on LinkedIn, I'm there all the time. So feel free to connect and drop me a message and let me know how journaling is supporting you in your life.
Wonderful. So we've got your podcast, and how often do you bring out your podcast, Alex?
So now I am in between seasons. So we finished the first season where it was about personal journaling. We talked about self-care and gratitude and trauma and creativity. And now the second season is going to come out at the end of this month, and it's more on business journaling and how we can use journaling as a leadership tool.
Great. So we've got your podcast. So we can go back and binge on series 1, ready for series 2 at the end of this month. And then I just want to mention, you mentioned your website, but I want to really encourage people to go over there because there are some really juicy free resources that, for me, there's one that's sort of starting you off with journaling, which I think could be a really useful resource for people. And also you've got your own journal, which people can find out more about on your website too. So plenty of really juicy resources on the website. We'll put all of the links in the show notes below. And then of course LinkedIn, which is where you and I connected. So
Yes.
again, you've got fairly regular articles on LinkedIn. So if people are on that platform, they can follow you, they can keep in touch with your own writing there. Beautiful. Let's just take a moment, Alex. I want to just give you a final moment to just like really tune in and see if there's anything else, perhaps I didn't ask you a question, or if there's anything else that you feel called to share before we close today.
I'm really grateful for our conversation, and I'm really grateful to spread the word about journaling with every opportunity. And I just want to encourage people to take 2 minutes every day. That's all it takes. You don't need hours to sit down with your journal. You just need a couple of minutes to be there, connect with yourself, connect with the piece of paper and the pen, and write from the heart. And you will find different writing prompts and questions, or just start free writing if that's something that you want to get out of your chest. There's something bothering you, just be connected. Don't be afraid to connect to whatever it is inside of you. And remember to keep impressing yourself every day. This is where impressivity comes from. Impress yourself every day.
Awesome. Alex, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.